In a world without supermarkets, greenhouses, or imported produce, survival depended on one thing: the garden. For medieval families, gardens were not just a patch of earth. They were a lifeline. Every herb, fruit, and vegetable grown had a purpose. They provided medicine, flavor, and food through harsh winters when the fields lay frozen. Today we're uncovering 12 medieval garden layouts so cleverly designed that they could feed entire families all year round. These gardens were more than functional. They were feats of ecological planning, centuries ahead of their time. 1. The monastic cloister garden, the self-sustaining microcosm. Behind monastery walls lay one of the most organized and productive garden systems in the medieval world. Monastic cloister gardens were designed in perfect symmetry, for paths dividing sections into quarters, each dedicated to a vital function. One section grew medicinal herbs like sage, rue, and mint for the infirmary. Another cultivated vegetables, leeks, onions, and beans for the refectory kitchen. A third section nurtured fruit trees and vines, while the last held aromatic and sacred plants used in rituals. Rainwater was carefully channeled through stone gutters into collection pools, and composting was managed with quiet efficiency. These gardens were both spiritual and practical, a symbol of order in an unpredictable world. 2. The peasant's kitchen plot. Every inch counts. Most peasants had no walls or symmetry. Their gardens were shaped by necessity, not luxury. Yet they were masterpieces of efficiency. Next to every cottage lay a small fenced plot bursting with hardy greens, turnips, cabbages, and legumes. Herbs grew in corners near doors for easy access. Chickens scratched in the soil, fertilizing the ground as they searched for insects. Every season brought a change. Spring, peasants planted onions, lettuce, and radishes. In summer, they harvested beans and peas. In autumn, they filled clay jars with preserved herbs and pickled roots for winter. Nothing was wasted. The layout may have looked chaotic, but it was rooted in ancient peasant wisdom. Every plant, every space, had a purpose. 3. The castle kitchen garden, food for nobility and servants. Inside castle walls, gardens were planned not only for sustenance but for prestige. A lord's kitchen garden supplied both the great hall and the servant quarters. It was laid out in neat geometric beds divided by gravel paths with raised borders to improve drainage. Rows of leeks, parsnips, and beets filled the center, while fruit trees like quince and apple lined the edges. Bees were kept in woven skeps for honey and wax. Herbs like thyme, marjoram, and parsley were cultivated for sauces and medicines. The design balanced beauty and function, a symbol of order and wealth, even in a time of scarcity. The Lord's garden might have fed dozens, but it was maintained by a handful of skilled gardeners who knew the rhythms of the earth as well as any monk. 4. The walled medicinal garden, the apothecary sanctuary. The medieval medicinal garden, often kept by monks, nuns, or wise women, was a living pharmacy. It followed a square or circular layout, each section devoted to a bodily system, plants for the lungs in one, for the stomach in another. Lavender, rosemary, chamomile, and yarrow filled the air with healing fragrance. Paths were lined with stone markers, engraved with Latin names, and water features kept humidity steady. Walls protected delicate herbs from cold winds. These gardens did more than heal the body. They preserved scientific knowledge through centuries, when medicine was often guesswork. The organization reflected early understanding of botany and the human body, centuries before microscopes or modern medicine. 5. The orchard meadow, fruit, shade, and forage. A medieval orchard wasn't just about apples. It was an entire food ecosystem. Fruit trees, apple, pear, plum, and cherry, were planted in careful rows, spaced for airflow and sunlight. Beneath them, peasants grew shade-tolerant herbs, mushrooms, and legumes. Sheep grazed below, eating fallen fruit and fertilizing the soil. This layered system mimicked a natural woodland, producing food across multiple levels. The result was abundance from early spring blossoms to late autumn harvests. Many modern permaculture systems echo this ancient design, using nature's patterns to sustain human life without exhausting the land. 6. The herbery, culinary, and healing wisdom combined. In the medieval world, herbs were everything: food, seasoning, medicine, insect repellent, even spiritual protection. Herbaries were compact gardens packed with variety. Each bed contained clusters of plants grouped by use, culinary, medicinal, or aromatic. One section might hold sage, rosemary, and thyme. Another featured woundwort, comfrey, and fennel. Borders were edged with marigolds to deter pests. The herbery was often located near the kitchen or infirmary for quick access. Its layout was less about beauty and more about practicality, a living library of the Middle Ages. 7. The vineyard garden, the medieval source of joy. In warmer regions of Europe, vineyards were essential. Wine wasn't just a luxury, it was safer to drink than water. Vineyards followed precise geometry, vines planted on sloped terraces facing the sun, ensuring good drainage and warmth. Between the rows, peasants often planted vegetables or herbs to make the most of every patch of soil. Grapes were harvested and pressed on site, and the leftover pumice was fed to livestock or composted. The vineyard was a cycle of growth, use, and renewal. Its layout still guides modern viticulture, a medieval balance of productivity and sustainability. 8. The market garden, profit from the earth. Not all gardens fed only their owners. Some were designed to feed entire towns. Market gardens grew near city walls, supplying vegetables, herbs, and fruit to urban populations. Their layouts maximized yield. Narrow beds for easy weeding, irrigation ditches running between rows, and crops rotated through the year to prevent soil exhaustion. Tools were simple, but planning was advanced. Gardeners recorded planting schedules on wax tablets and reused manure from nearby stables as fertilizer. By mixing fast-growing crops like lettuce with slow growers like carrots, they ensured a constant harvest. The medieval market garden was the ancestor of today's commercial farming. 9. The potager, beauty with purpose. The potager, or decorative kitchen garden, was where artistry met utility. Found in monasteries, manors, and even some wealthier peasant homes. Potagers combined food, plants, and flowers in pleasing symmetry. Bright calendulas and violets grew alongside onions and kale. Borders of herbs framed neatly divided beds. The design wasn't just aesthetic. Flowers attracted pollinators and repelled pests. Every visual choice had a practical purpose. The potager reflected the medieval belief that harmony in nature mirrored harmony in life. To tend such a garden was both work and meditation. 10. The fish pond and water garden, food from the deep. Water was life, and medieval people knew how to cultivate it. Fish ponds were often integrated into larger garden layouts, especially on monastic lands and estates. Carefully engineered, they provided a year-round source of protein. The ponds were fed by diverted streams and stocked with carp, trout, or pike. Water plants like watercress and reeds were grown along the edges for food and filtration. In winter, straw mats covered the surface to prevent freezing, while channels allowed fresh water to flow even in frost. The system combined aquaculture with irrigation, a balanced, renewable food source that needed no imported feed or technology. 11. The forest garden. Nature as teacher. Perhaps the most advanced layout of all was the forest garden, a layered system modeled on wild woodlands. At its highest level were fruit and nut trees. Beneath them grew berry bushes, vines, herbs, and root vegetables. Mushrooms and medicinal plants thrived in the shade. Chickens and pigs foraged below, keeping pests in check and fertilizing the soil. Forest gardens were designed to be nearly self-sustaining. Once established, they required little human input. Everything that fell to the ground fed something else. Modern permaculture directly borrows this medieval principle. Design like nature, and you'll never run out. 12. The winter store garden, feeding the hungry months. Surviving the medieval winter meant planning for scarcity. Winter store gardens were designed for preservation. Root vegetables like parsnips, carrots, and turnips were buried in pits, insulated with straw and clay. Cabbages were left in the ground under thatched shelters. Herbs were dried in garrots or wrapped in cloth and hung from rafters. The garden layout itself was divided by storage function. One section for drying herbs, another for root crops, and a small corner for cold frames to sprout hardy greens even in frost. Every layout choice served one goal: to ensure the family had something to eat when the earth froze. The beauty of medieval garden design wasn't just in its patterns or walls. It was in the wisdom it embodied. These 12 layouts, from monastic cloisters to peasant kitchen plots, reveal a world that understood balance long before modern sustainability was coined. They worked with nature's cycles, not against them. The medieval garden was science, art, and survival blended into one. Every seed sown had intention. Every bed had purpose. Every path led to nourishment. When we look back at these ancient gardens, we don't just see how people survived. We see how they thrived through observation, adaptation, and respect for the earth. Their lessons remain as relevant as ever. If you enjoyed exploring the hidden wisdom of medieval gardens, make sure to subscribe to the channel.